Which camera will be on me?
They'll go back and forth.
We'll go back and forth, okay.
Why do you want to know?
I like to look in the camera sometimes.
Mess with it.
I want to see if they catch my good side.
Okay, I got you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum for Hopkinsville City Council, Ward 11. The League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public. To that end, the Hopkinsville Christian County League of Women Voters is bringing you, the voters, this forum. My name is Eileen White, and I will be your moderator. Our candidates for the Hopkinsville City Council Ward 11 are Jason Bell and Jose Quinonez. A coin was flipped between the two candidates to determine who will speak first after introductions. Mr. Quinonez won the coin toss, so he will speak first in a moment. Questions were prepared in advance by league members and relate to the potential office of the candidate. These were given to the moderator, who will alternate candidates to answer the questions. If a candidate talks but does not answer the question, the specific question will be repeated to him again for a 30-second response. Each candidate has 2 minutes for opening remarks and has 3 minutes to answer each question. 1 minute will be allowed for rebuttal if necessary. Candidates are timed by league members. A yellow sign will be raised when 30 seconds of the allotted time remains. A red sign means that the respondent must stop, and we do ask that you honor that. If the candidates are ready, we'll begin. Mr. Quinonez, would you give us your opening remarks? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. White. First of all, I'd like to wish our Jewish residents in Hopkinsville a very holy day of fasting, repentance, and charity on this day of Yom Kippur. So I want to say that first of all. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum and for the city of Hopkinsville for allowing us to use their council chambers for this forum. I definitely appreciate this opportunity to come and speak with the voters of Hopkinsville as they make a decision on what their next city council will look like. My name is Jose Quinonez, and I've lived here in Hopkinsville since 2005. I'm actually a native of Los Angeles, California. But my wife and I decided to make Hopkinsville our home for raising our family. So the city of Hopkinsville opened their doors and allowed me to be the executive director of the Senior Citizen Center, where I was thoroughly enjoying that job and made sure that the senior citizens here in Hopkinsville were well taken care of. Being from Los Angeles, you know, I was a big city boy trying to make his way in a small town, so I had a lot of things to learn when I came here to Hopkinsville. My parents were Mexican immigrants, so I do have a first-generation immigrant background, so I'm very patriotic. But I do want to say that the reason I'm running for city council is because the city of Hopkinsville has been so great to me. I really have come to understand the old African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. Because I know my wife and I couldn't have done it alone. And it took the churches here in Hopkinsville, the schools, and a lot of other folks to help us raise our 2 young children to be the wonderful young people that they are. So that's my passion, and that's why I'm running for city council, to give back and serve this community.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, you will have 2 minutes for your opening remarks. You may begin.
Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Jason Bell. I'm a life resident of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, 41 years old. I'm also a business owner of a car spot for 6 years. no, not quite a mentor, but a volunteer with a mentoring program here in the city. It's been 2 years, called Men to Be, heavily involved in that. It's a need for it, especially for the young men growing up around here. And like I say, I'm just here asking for your vote on November 8th for re-election for my 3rd term to continue being a voice for the people.
Okay, Mr. Quinonez, excuse me, Mr. Quinonez, you have the first question. What would be your top 2 priorities if you were elected?
Thank you for that question. I would say one of the things that really concerns me in Hopkinsville is that over the last several decades, our home ownership rate has been declining. And I value home ownership, and I know it's a pathway for a lot of folks to accumulate and pass on intergenerational wealth. And so I believe that as a city, we need to find ways to sort of turn that ship around and get our home ownership rate above 50% and then slowly keep on climbing upwards, because I think the pride in ownership is going to be what helps make our city much, much better than it already is, even though we have a wonderful city. One of my second priorities is making sure that we have strong economic development here in our community, where we're not only attracting outside businesses to come and make Hopkinsville their home, but that we also are ensuring that our own locally owned small businesses, such as my opponents here, also has the opportunity and the access to the same resources that the city provides for our locally owned businesses to also grow, and for our economy to grow and prosper, and for everyone to be lifted up with that upward momentum in our economy. So those are probably the 2 priorities for me. But what I will say next is that if I'm elected as your next city council member, it's not my agenda that I want to bring to the city council. It's the voters and the residents of Ward 11. I want to bring their agenda to the city council. So I want to do as much as I can to knock on as many doors as I can. But if I'm elected, I do want to be as open as I can and reachable as I can to listen to as many people's concerns out in the community. So I do make that one commitment that if you're not able to make the city council meetings or any committee meetings, if you invite me to come speak to your community group, or if you invite me to come to your community group, your church group, I'll do everything in my power to be there to come and listen to you and meet you where you are if you're not able to come to city council meetings. So again, if you elect me, I want to bring your agenda to city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, what would be your top 2 priorities if you were elected?
If I was elected, one of the top priorities would be the pension. Of course, everybody knows about it. It hadn't been kicked down the road. We've been trying to handle it, so we got some of that Harper money and was able to do some of that to put a kind of like a Band-Aid on it here and there, but eventually it's going to have to be addressed and try to find ways to create new revenue to try to handle that pension problem. And that'll be one of the issues. And the second issue I would say would be, I would try to get, so much of the issue, but try to get citizen engagement. I think the more that the citizens get involved, the better community we can have. We have when I say engagement, I don't mean just complaining. We get a lot of complaints, but we don't get people that's involved, come in, give solutions. Yes, we're elected to be the voice for a certain ward, but also there's still 25,000 other opinions out there that could help. They might have an idea that I don't have. If you don't reach out to me, then how can we know which way to go or what the citizens actually want? So like to me, it's a big issue to get more citizens involved and aware of what's going on, like these type of forums y'all have, because without these forums right here, a lot of people wouldn't know who's running or what's going on. So I would say the pension one issue and citizen engagement would be my second issue to try to work on.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, the second question. Would you change any current city council priorities?
Right now, I kind of, the way things going, they're pretty smooth. Maybe try to come up with a better solution or something for the water part. Maybe if we have to invest more money to make it more appealing to older kids or older people like that. Let me see. But outside of that, I think we're moving in a pretty good direction. You know, some don't agree, but I think I wouldn't change too much or nothing right now.
Thank you. Mr. Quinonez, would you change any current city council priorities?
One, listen, I'll be honest here and say that I don't have an opportunity to always watch all the city council meetings or come to a city council meeting. So honestly, I don't know how many priorities the city has. I know we've had plans for economic growth and whatnot. But I know one thing in talking to folks out in my ward that they have a concern about, that I believe they don't feel the city is doing as much as they can, or whether that's true or not, or warranted or not, is crime. I mean, just folks are concerned about crime in our city. And rightfully so. I mean, we start the year with a greater than normal average number of homicides than previous years. And I think that was alarming to a lot of folks. And I heard that a lot, you know. I heard, you know, dads saying, hey, listen, I just want to go to the park with my family and have a good time without worrying about what violence may come my way. So I do think that if I'm elected to city council, I know that's one thing that my constituents are going to want me to focus on, is how it is that we can have our police department police our communities in a better way, make us all feel safer, how to reduce crime. I'm not a law enforcement expert, so I don't purport to have any solution to reducing crime. But I would rely on, you know, Chief Sumner and the police department experts to, you know, to work with, to say, hey, these are solutions that have worked in other cities. Let's give this a try.
Thank you. Right? If elected, how would you ensure that you would have interactions with your constituents so that you are serving their particular needs, Mr. Quinonez?
Right. Well, I think I briefly have touched on this already. One thing I think that the city has done excellent in is making a lot of the city council documents available online, certainly putting the city council meetings on the city website, the city TV channel, and whatnot, to provide, you know, our residents with access to the information they need to know what their government is doing. The only thing I would say is that, you know, I think city council meetings are just inaccessible to some folks, you know, out there. Just the time of it. You know, some folks get off work, and the last thing they're thinking about is going to a city council meeting after they've gotten off work. So maybe one idea could be to have, you know, some open, you know, town hall meetings in the community, maybe annually or semi-annually, where some city staff and council members may come on a Saturday and invite the public to come to just hear what the public has to say. You know, I think one important aspect of leadership that people sometimes neglect is leadership isn't always about doing things or taking action. Sometimes it's about listening and understanding. So I think the city can do other things to be proactive. But absent that, if the city's not open to an idea like that, like I said, you know, outside of my work hours, if I'm elected city council member and, you know, some church in my ward or another church in the community is organizing a meeting and they want me to come and listen to what they have to say, I'm open to go. I'll give folks my cell phone number, I'll answer your calls, and I'll attend, you know, as many invites as I get, you know, as long as it doesn't interfere with my work, and I gotta make a living too. So the city has a tough task of engaging the community. Just like we as elected officials and candidates running for office have a tough time sometimes getting people to come out and vote. And that's borne out by the low participation rate we sometimes have gotten previous to the pandemic. And I don't know what the solution is to get more people engaged in city politics or city governance, but I, for one, would do my part of being as accessible as I can and attending as many, you know, many community groups as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, if elected, how would you ensure that you would have interaction with your constituents so that you are serving their particular needs?
Not to piggyback too much off him, but like I say, it's kind of hard to get citizens involved. I've learned over the last several years, so just only attempt, couldn't assure it, but I could attempt to like maybe certain areas of my ward host like a barbecue or fish fry, some type of event to try to get the family out and just listen to them, not speak on what I want or what I would like to see done, just take suggestions from citizens and stuff, and maybe actually get out when it's not campaign season or something we really don't do, and get out, knock on doors, or place someone where they can reach you, let them know your contact information to reach out. And maybe use social media some. Everybody don't do social media, but there's quite a bit to get on there. And I say it's a challenging task to try to get people involved, but that's one way I would know, like maybe have barbecues or fish fries, and you're trying to have family events to get them out and hear what they got to say. And outside of that, I don't know what else I could use to work.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, what, if anything, should the city be doing right now to prepare for natural disasters like the kinds we have seen in Mayfield, Dawson Springs, and Pembroke?
Good question. I can't say totally that we're prepared for it, but I think Mr. Graham and them do a great job. I think that's something I would have to reach out to them and see what type of plan they actually have in place. We had a couple of tornadoes. It wasn't a disaster like Mayfield and stuff, but what we had on Mount Olive and hit the churches and stuff. And Mr. Graham, they did pretty good. I think they have a plan in place that we'll be ready for.
Thank you. Mr. Quinonez, what, if anything, should the city be doing right now to prepare for natural disasters like the kinds we have seen in Mayfield, Dawson Springs, and Pembroke?
Well, I mean, first of all, God forbid that anything like that should ever happen in our community. I wouldn't definitely want that to happen. You know, and I think I'll agree with Jason on this. You know, in the past, I think our community has done excellent in responding. I mean, when I say community, I mean our county government, city government, as well as just, you know, regular citizens in dealing with the cleanup after, you know, tornadoes. Now, in terms of preparing for any future, you know, incidents like tornadoes or flooding, you know, I think as a city we do need to make some preparations. You know, in the event of a tornado, you know, not everyone has an underground basement that they can go to for shelter and safety. So we may want to look at, you know, what places we can establish as tornado shelters for those folks that wish to flee from their home in the event of a tornado. In terms of flooding, I know the city a long time ago passed that stormwater utility, you know, commission to help with some of the water runoff from heavy rains and torrential rains. And one thing we do know is that, you know, our climate is changing. So we do have to prepare for things like flooding, heavy storms, tornadoes, and things like that. So I think our emergency management center, and like I said, I think Mr. Graham probably thinks about these things every day and every night. And I'm sure, like everything else, resources is a constraint. So we need to look at how we can leverage some federal and state tax dollars that we pay to come back here to our community to look at things like that, like storm shelters and other preparations. You know, questions like, is our power grid, you know, ready to handle extreme summer heat waves like they faced in Texas? And that's an excellent question that if I'm on the city council, I want to ask our HES people. So I do think about these things. They're not a big high priority for our residents, not anything they think about, but that's sometimes why you have to elect people to represent you on the city council who are willing to devote and serve their time, give their time to serve you, to think about some of these issues. So I appreciate that question. Even though I don't get it on the campaign trail, I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Quinonez, do you see homelessness as a problem in our community? If so, what role does the city play in addressing this issue?
Right. Yeah, we are facing an increasing amount of visible street homeless and homeless people in our city. You know, and it's an issue that I've worked with in the past when I was living in Los Angeles. I actually worked for a county agency charged with distributing funds to provide shelter and social services for the homeless. And the first thing I have to say is that, you know, homelessness is a problem first for the person that's homeless, okay? And the city then is tasked to deal with that because our residents, you know, don't like the look of it. But what I do know is that we have some excellent agencies here in town that are providing shelter and services to help those in need who are without a home. The issue, I can tell you, is so hard to tackle, and I know that as a city, we do not have the resources here locally to really adequately deal with the issue of temporary housing and permanent supportive housing for people to move up the chain out of a shelter into some supportive housing to be able to live independently while dealing with their mental health or substance abuse issue. So I do believe we need to deal with the issue, and what I see my role in that is to help our city work with state, federal, housing officials and economic development officials and people at HUD to get more money here to help us deal with this issue. And the solutions aren't easy. And I don't claim to be an expert, even though I've worked with that agency for 5 years. I've been away from that for so long. There are people way smarter than me who are continue to work on this issue that I would consult with and see what works. But typically, most homeless advocate response and service providers response is housing first. Housing first. It isn't shelters. And housing first, boy, housing is a big issue for everyone. Ask anybody out there trying to find a rental housing place to rent that's affordable. I mean, we have a housing crisis in general, not just the homeless issue.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, do you see homelessness as a problem in our community? If so, what role does the city play in addressing this issue?
Yes, of course, there's an issue with the homelessness. It's continuing to grow, and the city do have, I feel we have some part in it, but it's also, it's like I say, it's on the homeless person, really, because each case probably different. You got some that will choose to be homeless, and you got some that may be facing, just can't get a job or something, that they need a shelter, or they can have a permanent address or something. Maybe the city could help fund something like that, maybe in the budget in the future. Get like a shelter, like I say, or the home. And yeah, also, like, I would like to maybe get time, like I say, I'm gonna busy, get out and talk with the homeless, like I say, there's one-on-one. See what issues that they really have, find the root problem to even see what is the problem. Maybe what we think the problem is not even the problem. You know, so I just would say, like, as a city, maybe we could get out, walk around, maybe just check with the homeless, see what the issue is, see if we can help. Maybe it's not a city issue, maybe we can't help. Figure out where they're coming from. Maybe are they coming from here? I've heard stories that they get let out here, or just reach out to surrounding counties, maybe see what's going on, so why it's climbing so high here, but it do seem to be a problem here. And I do say the city have some input on it.
Thank you.
Ms. White, can I?
You have 1 minute for
rebut. You know, it's a difficult issue, and I think nobody wants any homeless people in their backyard or near their home. But I think one thing, I will maybe address one thing that you said, you know, Jason, and that's that I don't think anybody chooses to be homeless. You know, maybe once they become homeless, they may choose to refuse services, so they don't want to go in a shelter, maybe because they don't feel safe in a shelter, and that's an issue. But yeah, I don't think anybody chooses to be homeless. I mean, Ted Turner was, you know, someone who suffered from mental issues, you know, the owner of TNT and that cable network. That man didn't become homeless not because he didn't choose to. He had the economic resources to avoid being homeless. So we're dealing with folks who are vulnerable, who suffer from mental illness or substance abuse, and have a lack of resources to avoid the streets. And once they're there, it's sometimes hard to get away.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bell, you have 1 moment, 1 minute, excuse me.
I just want to say, when I say choose, I guess I should explain it a little better. You got some like families do. I've seen it where families reach out to help the one that's struggling and stuff, and they just don't want to accept the help or don't want to abide by certain rules or do things. So when I say choose, of course nobody wants to be homeless, but I know for a fact there's been some cases where like they don't want to accept the family help, they don't want to do that, so they feel they can go out and sleep in their car or sleep here and there and think they can do better and stuff, but they say it just keep going on and they stay homeless.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, if elected, what is your vision for the future of Hopkinsville?
Well, I've always said when I ran, I've always ran to be a voice for the people, so it really wouldn't be so much my vision. It's just about back to getting out to the constituents, trying to see what it is they vision to see. But I would like to see us to be growing a little bit, but continue to grow, bring things here, family oriented, so where family, like restaurants or entertainment, different things for family. I would like to see that vision come to, and we have a mentor group. I like to see more mentors and stuff get involved and focus on the youth. Get a vision and focus on the youth because they are our future. So, but like I said, more or less, just see what the citizens want. It's not my vision. I'm just here to be a voice for the people.
Thank you. Mr. Quinonez, if elected, what is your vision for the future of Hopkinsville?
Right. Well, as I said before, I definitely want to bring my agenda that comes from the voters and residents of Ward 11. So just like Jason, I'm not looking here to bring my own agenda, but that doesn't mean I don't have a vision for the city. But first, I do want to reiterate that, I want to hear as much as I can from my constituents in Ward 11 and bring their issues to City Council and help address those issues and work with my fellow council members if I'm elected to solve those issues. Because I'm sure the issues that we face in Ward 11 are similar issues as the residents face in Ward 5 and Ward 1 and so forth throughout the city. The one vision I do have is, I do want our city to be a leading edge city when it comes to how our economy is changing. There's a strong push right now in the federal government to electrify automobiles, to electrify as much as possible, to help homes be more self-sufficient and be off the power grid as much as possible through solar panels. So I do want our city to grow and try to invite some of those companies that are going to be leading edge technology companies, leading forth that economy in the future. We don't want to be behind in how our economy is going to be changing in the future, and our future is going to be electric. There's a push to have more and more of our energy come from renewable resources and less from, polluting fossil fuel sources such as coal and natural gas. And so we need to think about where can we locate more electric vehicle charging stations? How are we going to handle more households in the city installing electric vehicle charging units in their home as they're buying more electric vehicles? Is our Community Development Services Department thinking about this, and how do we zone and permit for something like that? I don't know. I have a background in planning, I have a degree in planning, but I'm not a current planner. I don't know how the city moves forward with that, but I think that's important.
Thank you. Mr. Quinonez, should elected officials be loyal to their party platform or to all their constituents?
Boy, the answer to that is going to be both. I'm sorry to say, but I'm a partisan Democrat. Okay, now that doesn't mean that I'm bringing the democratic ideology to solve city issues. Because most city issues, you know, they're nonpartisan in nature in a lot of ways. You know, the street resurfacing and paving, you know, city electric lights and so forth. You know, that's not so much a partisan issue. What's most important is being the voice for your ward, being the person that brings the concerns of your constituents, your voters, your residents in your ward to city council and making your community a better place. Ultimately, that is what's most important. But again, we still have partisan races, and I'm running as a Democrat, and if I want the Democratic Party to help support me in the future, then I certainly can't do anything to piss off my political party. I mean, let's be serious. And I understand people's concern right now because partisan politics has gotten so divisive, you know, at the national level and state level, and I understand people's concern. You know, I'm happy to say that here in Hopkinsville and Christian County, I don't know that I've ever witnessed any sort of political campaign that's sort of super partisan, you know, or dirty, you know, or anyone appealing with dirty tactics. So that's not my style. While I say I'm a partisan Democrat, you know, I'm not about bringing national issues here to our city. What's most important is providing our residents with what they want, the change they want to see in their city, and for me to help them make that change. It's not about me, one person, it's about we as a community. What do we want? And how can we make that reality happen? How can we get more resources here to see the vision that we all have for our city? And I don't care if you're a Democratic candidate or you're a Republican candidate, if you can make our city better, excellent. Now, if that partisan divide causes more trouble than not, that's unhealthy, but that's not the kind of person that I am. So I definitely won't be bringing any nasty partisan politics to the city council. That's one promise I can make to people considering voting for me.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, should elected officials be loyal to their party platform or to all of their constituents?
I would give by saying a person should be loyal to themselves first. I get to what the question is saying, but over the years I learned to be loyal to myself because I've tried to be loyal to the party before, and if I vote a certain way, and like you say, it ticks certain people off, and then they're not loyal to you. And then if you vote another way with the constituents, and vice versa, it could go either way. But I say we're elected to be a voice for the people, so the people come first, regardless of party. You're here to serve the people, not the party. And I'm a Republican, and I stand on those values, and I always will. But just to say, to go by their platform, you got to agree to disagree sometimes, but it don't mean that I don't support the Republican Party or vice versa, whoever the party it may be. So I just say stay loyal to yourself and do what's right. And if the party can get with it, they can. If they can't, they can't. Or if the constituents can't get with it, then you just have to learn to deal with it. But to pick one or the other, I don't think you should have to do. Because and it's funny you asked that question because it was told that that I was going to have to either stand with my party or stand with my people at one time. That's what was said about me. And I felt different about that for the simple fact I can do both, you know, because it just depends on the issue or what's going on. So to divide, that's one of the problems we have. Like I say, the division has to stop somewhere. So it's okay to be Republican and die hard and all this and that, but at the end of the day, we're here to serve the people and the community needs. So I just say, be loyal to yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, what specific issues do you see in your ward, and how would you propose addressing them?
Our ward, I haven't, too many citizens reached out to me. I ride it quite often. I know over there on Phelps Avenue and stuff, some sidewalks and streets that could be done. Rose Acres got a flooding issue, which is getting worked on. Outside of that, it's got Ward 11 kind of thriving. We got several small businesses, a couple of new ones growing. We got a couple of parks, got the skate park. Got West Side Park, got a couple of parks that's actually pretty good. We just got 7th Street paved family. And so I like to say, I don't really see too many issues. We have some crime, but I haven't got a lot of calls about the crime. So I would say just some sidewalks and stuff over there on the 5th Avenue area. There would be some things I'll try to work on.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Quinonez, what specific issues do you see in your ward, and how would you propose addressing them?
Right. Well, it's been very negligent of me to say, or to not say that I believe I live in the best ward in the city. Okay. You know, we've got so many resources in our ward that the city cherishes. We've got Debo Park, and we've got the playground that when I was in leadership, Hopkinsville Christian County, class of 2008, we're the ones that spearheaded the effort to bring and build that playground at our city park. And that's one of the things that I'm so proud of. You know, when every time I would take my young kids back then to it, they'd always tell all the little kids out there, you know, my daddy helped build this playground. And it warmed my heart to no end. But along Canton Boulevard, you know, we have an excellent shopping plaza with lots of great restaurants. We have so many beautiful subdivisions. The subdivision I live in, Indian Hills. We have Shadowwood Trail, Rose Acres. One thing I would like to see is, I know the Ebonite plant closed down, and I know there's business there operating, but I would love to see us bring another employer to that facility and bring more jobs to Hopkinsville. I don't know who owns it. You know, I'm not a property developer, so it's not anything I get into. But I know that's one priority for me, is finding out a way to expand business operations in that facility to employ more of our city residents and more of our Ward 11 residents. Another priority, and unfortunately they tell me there's nothing that can be done about it, is that 6880 road from North Drive all the way down to like Princeton Road. Man, that thing is janky. And I understand it's a state road, like Road 6880, you know, 7th Street, and you know, we can't touch it, we can't resurface it, repave it, but it does need repavement. And if I'm elected, you know, city council, I'm definitely going to work with, you know, our state representative, our state senator, Whitney Westerfield, to try to get some state funds for the state to come in and do something about that patch of 6880. And I'll work with Walker Thomas too. Both of those gentlemen are Republican. I don't care. Whitney Westerfield was also with me in leadership, Hopkinsville Christian County, class of 2008. So he knows me, I know him. So I'd like to think that if I'm elected, I could easily work with Whitney to bring more state resources to our ward.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the questions section. And now we come to our closing remarks. Mr. Bell, you will go first. You have 2 minutes.
Closing remarks, just like to say thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. Like I say, I have these forums yearly, and it gives, like I say, the citizens a chance to hear what we got to say and who they got to pick to vote for. And just like to ask for your vote on November 8th for re-election for my 3rd term. And just one other thing I'm big on this term is you gotta stop the division, you know. Like, let's embrace the diversity in this community instead of dividing diversity. There seems to be a lot of dividing lately, so I just say that let's embrace the diversity instead of dividing diversity. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you may have your 2 minutes for closing remarks, sir.
Well, thanks once again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and I appreciate the opportunity and the invite to come here and have this discussion with my opponent and to present myself to the public and give voters an idea of who they may wish to vote for. I want to take this opportunity just to tell you a little bit more about myself. I've been happily married the last 19 years to my wife, Keisha. I have 2 young children. I have an 18-year-old son who's currently a freshman at Berea College, and a sophomore young lady, Marissa. And like I said, we live in Indian Hills, and We moved here back in 2005, like I said, because Hopkinsville welcomed us. We decided to make it our home. My wife and I knew that we couldn't raise a family the same way we could in Hopkinsville in Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles is just too expensive. And here we've been able to provide our children with a stable home that we own most of their entire lives, been able to put them through school, private school here in town. They both graduated from St. Peter and Paul School. So we're very proud of all the support that this community has given us. I'm so thankful for everything that we've received to help us raise our children. And in that spirit, I want to thank this community by serving as your next city council and giving back in that way. So I ask for your vote this November 8th. I hope that you have an opportunity to evaluate both Jason and myself and made a decision on who would best serve you. And I believe I could be that candidate as your new city council member. So on this November 8th, well, know that you can vote by mail now. You can request a ballot. You can vote early before November 8th at the Bruce Convention Center and Senior Citizen Center. So if you do wait until November 8th, remember, vote for Jose on election day.
Thank you. Thank you to both of the candidates and to the City of Hopkinsville and the mayor for the use of these facilities. The forum will be available for viewing numerous times between now and the November 8th election on your local access television channel. You can also go back and watch any of the forums that we have presented so far on the Hopkinsville League of Women Voters Facebook page. Thank you so much for being here and for your interest in our community. Good night.
I'm just following your lead.